anchor Will Hampton. And special guests, Coach Lefty Driesell and Coach Dave Odom.
Hello, everybody. This is Jim Celania live at the Charlotte Coliseum, and about 7,000 or 8,000 folks are here. In the next half hour, they'll find out who their newest Charlotte Hornet is. And right now, I guess you'd have to say there is a lot of mystery around that. We've got two very special guests, and I guess we told you who they are. Let's show you who they are. And everybody left-handed raised their hand. So that must mean that this is Dave Odom from Wake Forest University.
That's exactly what it means.
Two left-handers against a right-hander, right?
I lose every time.
Lefty and Dave and Jim, and we're going to be with you tonight and talk about the picks in this NBA draft. First of all, I want to start with both of you. Is there a consensus of opinion on number one, Dave? The first player taken tonight.
I don't see how they can go wrong with Derek Coleman. I think everybody knows he's going to be picked first.
All right, that's the New Jersey Nets. Do you agree, Lefty, that Coleman is the stud?
I think so, yeah. You know, in basketball, you got to win by getting rebounds. The guy's an all-time NCAA rebounder. He's an animal under the boards. And so if you're a coach or a general manager, you get that guy. I think he's going to go first. You never know. You know, this is a funny business, and things change in the last minute and so forth. So it's a mystery. That's why everybody's interested tonight. You never know.
Yeah, you know, Dave, I was reading an article in the paper today that they say that Coleman might be a head case. He's had some skirmishes with the law. He has been unruly at times and hadn't gone along with everybody else. Does that come into play when you got a guy with that kind of talent?
I don't think so. Nobody's perfect. We've all had problems in our lives. Derek Coleman, to his credit, has had 4 great years of basketball at Syracuse, and he's finished up his career there, and I assume he had a chance to graduate if he didn't graduate. And I think basketball people, by and large, know he's a good kid who wants to be a good basketball player, and I think the New Jersey Nets have got to take him.
Okay, the Nets will make that official later on, we think. Let's talk about, we also agree the Hornets will probably take Kendall Gill. That's the consensus of opinion on who we think they're going to name their number 1 draft selection. Kendall Gill, he's a 6'3.5" guard out of the University of Illinois. Can play some point and play some shooting guard. A great player in transition. Tremendous athlete. Also can play defense. You guys have both seen him. Lefty, what kind of talent is Kendall Gill?
Well, from what I know about him, what I've heard about him, he plays both ends of the court. He's not only a good offensive player, he's a good defensive player. He's very aggressive, and you know, he's got a lot of talent. So, you know, it depends on what the Hornets feel like they need, and evidently they feel they need a shooting guard.
Well, Dave, they got a couple of shooting guards already in Del Curry and in Rex Chapman. Why would a team draft another shooting guard?
Well, I think he gives them more than shooting. As Coach Driesell said, he's a great defender, which I don't think the Hornets really had a dependable defender on the defensive end. But I also think he gives them ball handling, which is something that they badly need to go along with a guy like Muggsy Bogues.
All right, that's who we think they're going to take. That's the speculation. Now I want to go to the left-hander and find out who you think they should take.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm a big man coach. You know, I always think if you're going to build a team, the first thing you need is a center. Just like if you're going to win in baseball, you got to have a pitcher. You got to have somebody to get them out. You got to have a big center that can block shots and rebound and scoring threat inside. And I don't think the Hornets have that right now. J.R. Reed's not a center. Neither is Armand Gilliam. So I would pick Shinskas. You know, but a lot of people would disagree with me. But hey, there's a guy that's 7'4", he's 287 pounds. We played against him this year. He's a great shooter, good passer. He played the passing game with Norman Sloan, and he can pass the ball. And I like Shinskas. I just think, you know, you got to have a big. I know he's a gambler. Now, he's a head case. He quit the team. He can't quit when he's playing for money. If he's playing for money, take his money away. So he's going to play. You get him a haircut, and you shave him up, and you get your belt out, and you whip him a little bit, and you got yourself a big-time center. That's my opinion.
Just put some clauses in his contract. And if he shows up heavy, he's out, right?
That's right.
Okay. All right, what about you? Dwayne Shinskas, he says the 7'2" center from Florida. He's the guy you go with. What about it?
I like the concept. I like big men myself. I agree. I don't think the Hornets have the big man, but I think if it were me, I would go with a guy like Felton Spencer, which I think is of equal size, but I think is a little more of a proven commodity, a guy that you could really count on.
Okay, so we got two coaches. We saw Shinskas. Here we're seeing Felton Spencer. Two coaches who know their stuff, and they're going against everything the Hornets have said. The Hornets have said they're going to take a guard or a small forward. Dave and Lefty both agree it's time to take a big man. The Hornets need a center to free J.R. Reed to play the power forward position. Let's go out now to our Will Hampton, who's out somewhere in the crowd. Let's find out what the fans think. Hey, Willie.
How you doing, Jim? I'm right here.
All right.
I'm looking right at you from up here. Good-looking set down there. We know the coaches. They like the big men. What about the fans? How big of a choice do the fans have? Can they make it a decision for the Hornets? I doubt it, but let's get some opinion. Who should the Hornets be?
Dennis Scott.
Ramil Robinson. Okay, Dennis Scott, Ramil Robinson. Let's move down this way and get some more opinion.
Matt.
What about you? Who should the Hornets pick?
I think they should pick Alec Kessler.
Alec Kessler, that's a new one. Okay, let's keep on moving down this way. Here's a couple other ones. Who should the Hornets pick?
Kendall Gill.
Kendall Gill.
Chris Jackson.
Chris Jackson. There's another one. Let's go on down this way and see. Who should the Hornets pick? Kendall Gill. Kendall Gill. And a little bit of a surprise here. We've got a special guest, the Bone Crusher, former heavyweight champion of the world. You a big basketball fan?
That's right. I used to play basketball in high school and college. But right now we're training up in Pine Mountain, and we have Mike Bivens here, my trainer, that lives in Lincoln, and we wanted to come down to Charlotte. Special, very special occasion. A lot of fans out here. Pick? I think, you know, there's a lot of good guys out there. It's hard to say. It's some very talented guys. I love to see the big guy from Georgia Tech.
Okay.
Yeah,
Scott.
yeah.
Okay.
Scott,
Thanks, Crusher. Jim, back to you. A busy stand right here.
All right, I think everybody would like to see Dennis Scott come here, but I seriously doubt if Dennis Scott's going to be around when the Hornets make their choice. Let me show you a room here in the Charlotte Coliseum. This is where the coaches go. This is where they get away from all this madness, where Alan Bristow, George Shinn, Gene Littles will sit, and they'll make their decisions. Right now, I'm sure Dave and Lefty, they got a scenario going that they think is going to happen, but they got to be ready at the last drop of a hat to pick somebody else, right?
Well, I think they pretty well know. You know, the people that I think are the most excited right now are the players that are about to get drafted. You can imagine these guys have dreamed of playing in the NBA since they were little kids, and they're sitting there by their TV, or they're sitting in New York or something and saying, man, where am I going to go? I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be poor. So, you know, those are the guys who really got the pressure on them. These guys, I think they know who they're going to take right now, unless something unforeseen happens.
They probably got a real good idea. Let's bring it back now and take a look at the top 10 players. We think the top 10. No one knows who the top 10 players are. We won't know for probably 5 years. We'll come back and tell you if we were right. Derek Coleman has to be the #1 player taken unless New Jersey just found something out about Derek Coleman they can't stand. Dennis Scott could also be a surprise #1. This guy's going to be probably a leading scorer in the NBA someday if he plays the way he did in college. Gary Payton, the best point guard in the country. Lionel Simmons can do it all, but not really an impact player at any one thing. Kendall Gill, that might be the guy the Hornets go with, guard out of Illinois. He's a great athlete. Chris Jackson, Gene Little said, hey, he's not 6'1". I had to look down on him, so I'm not going to take him. Ramil Robinson, 6'2", might be the strongest, physically strongest point guard in the country. He'll play well with somebody. Felton Spencer, Dave Odom says he's worked hard. He's been a project. He'll play well in the NBA. Travis Mays, that's a guy to keep your eye on, too. He's a sleeper. Somebody's going to take him early. And we put Ala in there just to get a little ACC flavor. From 10 to 20, it's really kind of hard to tell how you rank these players. What about Ala Abdelnaby? Just a quick thumbnail on him, Dave.
I love him. I think he really progressed from the time he was a freshman to the graduating as a senior. I think he actually had a better year this year than Leitner.
All right. We're going to be right back at the Charlotte Coliseum after this word from our sponsors. They're getting ready to pick up in New York.
The Charlotte Hornets draft party continues after these words from our sponsors.
Charlotte Hornets Draft Party, sponsored in part by Home Federal Savings and Precision Tune.
Your family has always known saving is important, Lillian Marie, but it became even more important when you came along. Now your parents and I are thinking more and more about your future, your braces, your first car, college. We want you to have it all, and saving will make it possible. And I know your money will be safe and growing at Home Federal. So rest easy, Lillian Marie. Your parents, Home Federal, and I are already working on your future.
You're worried. Your car needs brakes, and you need a place you can depend on.
2 weeks.
And I'll probably need the car 2 days.
But I need my car today.
Come on into Precision Tune. We now offer free brake inspections and complete brake services with the same expertise that made us America's auto maintenance leader. Brakes you can depend on. We guarantee it.
Run with precision. Run with the best.
One Tough Motor Oil announces one tough guarantee. The Quaker State 250,000-mile or 10-year guarantee. Register your new car at a participating service center. Then use only Quaker State. Have oil and filter changed as directed at a service center, and if any lubricated engine part suffers an oil-related breakdown within 250,000 miles or 10 years, you're covered. Quaker State guarantees it in writing. The big Q is one Tough Motor Oil.
Think of a place where the only thing bluer than the sky is the water.
where the sun never goes down till you're ready, and the food is the best part of the day. Tio Sancho, the taste of Mexico today.
All right, this is Jim Celania live at the Charlotte Coliseum, and they are apparently getting close to choosing the #1 draft pick. And New York, we still think it's going to be Coleman. Let's take a look at the draft order, and we will let you hear that draft pick when it happens. It's coming very soon. New Jersey picks first, followed by Seattle. You see Denver third. They created that deal with Miami. Apparently, Denver wants someone bad after getting rid of Fat Lever. They are really the mystery. I don't have any idea what Denver's going to do, whether it's going to be a shooter or a point guard to take his position. Then you go to Minnesota. Let's go to New York right now. It was Derek Coleman. That's Derek Coleman. I recognize Derek Coleman, the #1 draft pick, so he follows a list of tremendous basketball players today. David Robinson, Danny Manning, Purvis Ellison, Derek Coleman, the latest #1 draft pick, and soon to sign a contract probably in excess of, what do you think, $2.5 million.
Round basketball player, and the Nets can't really go wrong, everything considered, with a player of this caliber.
Well, you know, the one thing I like about him, he runs the floor, he can pass the basketball. He's going to become a better offensive player in the pros because it's a more wide-open game. But if you watch him outlift the ball on a rebound, he can throw it both right and left-handed. I think this kid is going to be a very good NBA player.
Shooting. This is the kind of guy you like to have. Now you look at his strength and weakness. His strength's unlimited full potential. Everybody agrees on that. The weakness, consistency.
He will measurably help the Nets.
Okay. Okay, we are back live at the Charlotte Coliseum now, and we're seeing footage of Derek Coleman, the big man from Syracuse. We had some technical problems. I don't know. I think we were picking up Mars there for a second. I don't think we heard a word you said, but obviously everybody's known all along Derek Coleman was the man, and the Nets got exactly who they wanted. Along with Reggie Theus, they got to rebuild that team. They call it the library up there, and I want to tell you, it gets quiet.
Well, again, like we said, Derek Coleman, I do think is the correct choice for the Nets. I don't see how they could bypass him. He's a multi-talented kid. He's got long arms. He's big. He rebounds. He scores. He does it all. I think he gives them the right pick.
Okay, Lefty wants to go to Miami, so we're going to go down to Tony Segura, who's in Miami right now. The Heat, of course, picking 9th instead of 3rd. Tony, how's things going down there in the sunny Florida State?
Well, it's hot here. The heat is on, as they say here at the Miami Arena. They estimate a crowd of about 2,000 here, anticipating Miami's pick, which is the 9th pick overall. You all have gone over that. Miami traded away its 3rd choice to the Denver Nuggets. So we're going to see. The consensus here, by the fans anyway, is that the Miami Heat will take power forward Willie Burton from the University of Minnesota. That seems to be the consensus. They also need a shooting guard. You know, as you all have talked about tonight, it's a crapshoot at best. Charlotte is up in 4 more picks. Let's see what they do. Will they do what they did last year or 2 years ago and not take Ronnie Cycli and take Rex Chapman instead? We will see. Jim, back to you.
Oh, Tony rubbing it in, thinking we should have taken Ronnie Cycli. Cycli named he won a lot of awards last year, and Rex, of course, struggled a bit, so I can see why they're licking their chops down there.
He's a big man. You take the big man, you gamble
every
with
time.
him. Hey, every time.
Speaking of big men, let's talk about last year's #1 pick for the Charlotte Hornets, J.R. Reed, and let's compare what J.R. did last year in the NBA, along with his adversaries who were also taking his first picks. Purvis, I guess, because of injuries, you have to come a total bust, and Sacramento has already traded him to the Washington Bullets, so maybe he'll come back strong now that he's playing for another former Louisville great, Wes Unseld.
Well, J.R. Reed, I think, as you mentioned, you know, I think he had a very fine year for the Hornets. As Coach Driesell accurately said a while ago, he is not a center in the NBA, but I do think he's a great power forward. And if they could add somebody like a Shincius or a Felton Spencer, I think that would do nothing but help JR be a better basketball player.
JR, in your estimation, how was his first year, Lefty?
I love him. I think he's going to get better. You looked up there, he averaged more rebounds than any of those top picks, and he's a strong guy. He can play 90, 92 games a year. He's going to get better offensively, and I think he's super. I love JR.
Yeah, he's probably the best defender the Hornets have also. Okay, Seattle right now is going, who do we take next? A lot of people think it's Gary Payton. We'll find out. First of all, we're going to take a break. We'll be back at the Coliseum next.
The Charlotte Hornets draft party continues after these words from our sponsors.
You're worried. Your car needs brakes, and you need a place you can depend on.
2 weeks.
And I'll probably need the car 2 days.
But I need my car today.
Come on into Precision Tune. We now offer free brake inspections and complete brake services with the same expertise that made us America's auto maintenance leader. Brakes you can depend on. We guarantee it.
Run with precision. Run with the best.
That hot cup of coffee.
Hello, Ellen. How are you?
That first name greeting. That fast, friendly service you get makes you feel like you're at home, and you are at Home Federal Savings.
Hi, I'm Joe King, inviting you to come to Home Federal for all your banking needs. We now have checking and savings accounts, personal, auto, and mortgage loans, as well as Visa and MasterCard. We're large enough to offer you the services that you want and need, but small enough to give you the personal service that you deserve.
My grandmother was always saving, looking for thriftier ways of doing things. When she baked biscuits, she made sure any dough left on the rolling pin and board was used to make an extra biscuit. Her chicken soup was always flavored with bones from last Sunday's chicken dinner. That waste not philosophy of my grandmother still exists today at Food Lion, cutting costs so we can offer you extra low prices. Food Lion, old-fashioned savings have never gone out of style.
Hey, Carolina, it's a great time to buy. It's the 4th of July.
Only 7 days left to save big on the Carolina's #1 selling truck line, Ford. This special value Ranger comes with air conditioning, AM/FM stereo with cassette, a sliding rear window, cast wheels, and lots more. All for just $179 a month. Plus, first-time buyers get an additional $500 bonus before you get your Carolina Ford dealer's best price. But there's only 7 days left.
It's the 4th of July. Goodbye.
Gary Payton. Okay, let's go right to New York right now. You'll see Gary Payton take the picture of the television screen above the 7,000 fans here at the Coliseum, and we'll see Gary Payton going up to the podium. He was just chosen by Seattle as the second player, and if we can take the scoreboard, you'll see that. What do you think about Gary Payton as a player in the NBA? This guy, his stock it kept building as they talked more about him this year.
Well, he was clearly the best player on the West Coast. I don't think there's any question about that. Whether you like Gary Payton or Kendall Gill is just a personal preference type thing, but they're both excellent basketball players. They both take it to the hole. They both score. They both defend. I think they're the consummate guard. I think they'll be great pro basketball players.
Yeah, Lefty Payton is the kind of guy that'll tell you he's going to come out and beat you and tell you how he's going to do it, and then do it most of the time.
Well, you see, you got to have a point guard. He's a legitimate big-time NBA point guard, and there are not too many of those guys around. He's a leader. He can run the offense for you. He plays good defense, and I think that's a good pick for them. If they need a point guard, I don't know that much about what they need, but obviously they needed a point guard.
They just need somebody to pass the ball to Dale Ellis out in the flats and have him bury one or two. And Payton is a great defensive player and plays the entire floor very well. So a smart, safe choice for Seattle. Now coming up next in the draft, picking third, the Denver Nuggets. This is the team that really has not let anybody have an idea of what they're going to do. They traded Fat Lever, a player who led them in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. But under Doug Moe's system, that's normal. T.R. Dunn did a lot of that too. What kind of player do you think Denver's going to go for?
Well, they lost a scorer in Fat Lever. So I think you got to look to a guy like Dennis Scott or Chris Jackson, because they've got to replace that scoring, and it's just a matter of whether they feel like they need a quick Chris Jackson, who's a little bit smaller, or a bigger Dennis Scott, who can score equally well.
Let's talk about it. If you got a team out there in the Mile High City, who do you take right now, Dennis Scott or Chris Jackson? 6'1", phenomenal talent. Dennis Scott, a proven scorer.
The thing that worries me about Dennis is his weight, but I worried about that when he got out of high school. I coached him in an Olympic Festival. He was way overweight. I said, Dennis, you'll never play guard in the ACC at this weight, but he lost and he had a great career. So I don't know. I read George Allen's book one time. He said he never drafted a guy that had a weight problem. I'm not sure that's correct, but that would scare me about him. Chris Jackson is a great kid, but he's got a physical problem that may bother him if he's playing 90 games a year. So I think it's a toss-up, whichever one they feel like fits their system better.
You guys are the guys that know, but if I had my choice right now, I think you just if you got to pick Dennis Scott up with a forklift and put him in a flatbed truck, that's what you do, because he'll lose the weight and he'll play some basketball for you. So we'll be ready for the next pick, and we'll come back live from the Coliseum with Lefty Driesell and Dave Odom after this.
The Charlotte Hornets draft party continues after these words from our sponsors.
Joe King for Home Federal Savings, here to share some thoughts about saving for the future. This is my granddaughter, Lillian Marie. She's not even a year old, and already we're thinking about her braces, her car, and her college education. We want things to be perfect for her, and we're letting Home Federal help. Home Federal gives local folks superior service and excellent earnings on savings. Lillian Marie will know. Home is where the heart is.
You're worried. Your car needs brakes, and you need a place you can depend on.
2 weeks.
And I'll probably need the car 2 days.
But I need my car today.
Come on into Precision Tune. We now offer free brake inspections and complete brake services with the same expertise that made us America's auto maintenance leader. Brakes you can depend on. We guarantee it.
Run with precision. Run with the best.
The bigger than ever, better than ever 1991 Chevy S10 Blazer 4-door.
They call me Super Mom.
America's best-loved sport utility vehicle.
Oh, I like that.
And four-wheel anti-lock brakes are standard on the new 4-door Chevy S10 Blazer.
Of course, everybody needs a hand sometime.
Come open one up and see why nobody's winning like the heartbeat of America.
So let's have a hand for Mom.
Friday only, 10 to 10 only. It's the Circuit City 12-hour sale. Friday only. Time counts down with savings in every department. Like this 19-inch color TV with remote, now a low $199.97. And this portable Sony stereo system with double cassette player, now just $89.97. But hurry, Friday only, time really flies. At the Circuit City 12-hour sale. Friday only, 10 to 10 only.
Welcome back live to the Charlotte Coliseum. Jim Celania, along with Coach Dave Odom from Wake Forest and Lefty Driesell. And so far, it's gone according to Hoyle. The #1 draft pick by the New Jersey Nets was Derek Coleman. Seattle then took the fine point guard from Oregon State. That's Gary Payton. Right now, the Denver Nuggets and Carl Scheer putting their minds together. We think it's going to be Dennis Scott or else Chris Jackson. And talk about the difference in those two players, Dave, and what Denver needs right now.
Well, again, I think the thing that you got to remember is that they've got the little guard Adams already out there, and I'm not so sure that they want to, you know, compound their problem with another small guard in Jackson, although he's a great one. So my guess is that they're going to take Dennis Scott. I simply think he's the best 6'8" shooter in all of basketball. I don't care what level it is. I think he's a great shooter. He's just a clutch shooter. He wins games for you. I don't know how they can go wrong with him. Your opinion, Lefty?
Well, I agree with Dave on Dennis Scott, but I'm saying there's some few things that bother me about his weight problem, and they might fool you here and go with a big guy. Let's wait and see. I love Dennis. He's a great competitor, loaded with confidence.
Chris Jackson. Okay, they have just made their selection, and there you see Chris Jackson in New York get up, and the third player taken in this year's draft. So after getting rid of Fat Lever, they needed a point guard, and Chris Jackson's the guy. Tremendous athletic talent. I see him somewhere in the vein of Kevin Johnson, possibly even more explosive, although not the driver and not the leaper that Kevin Johnson has become for the Phoenix Suns. And I want to get back. Okay, Chris Jackson is the man, 6 feet. If he's 6 feet, I'm not too sure about that. I want to get back to Lefty because he keeps talking about the weight problem that Dennis Scott has. This is a man that has dropped how many pounds in 9 weeks?
Well, I don't want to brag. I dropped 30. Weight Watchers.
He and Tommy Lasorda.
Looking pretty good, isn't he?
I think he looks great.
Yeah, back Duncan there.
Okay, so Dennis Scott, we think right now is going to be the next selection. I think the Orlando Magic will make Dennis Scott their next selection. They got rid of Reggie Theus. They need an outside shooter. Can you imagine them taking any? First of all, I never thought Dennis Scott would last this long.
Well, I agree with you. I kind of thought Denver would go ahead and pick him, but I think Orlando's got to take Scott. It's pretty much a local choice. You know, he's in Atlanta now, Orlando, so people are very familiar with him in that area, so I think he's a good draw. Plus, what I said, I think he's the best 6'8" shooter in basketball.
Okay, so that's Orlando's pick. Not yet, of course, but we think it's going to be Dennis Scott, 6'8". Is he a real 6'8", too? That's something I've been curious about.
I think he plays every bit of 6'8". I really do. We tried to match him up against 2 or 3 different people. I know Anthony Tucker's right at 6'9". They looked each other straight in the eye. So, yeah, I'd say he's a legit 6'8".
Okay, Orlando is close to picking. Now, the way we're going to handle this tonight is we're going to leave the air at 8 o'clock because they are running behind. But we will come back on, interrupt programming, and give you the Charlotte Hornet pick before the Charlotte Hornet pick is announced. So you're going to have Dave, you're going to have Lefty, we're going to have reactions from the fans and everything when the Hornets make their first round draft pick. But right now we want to go back to the draft order. New Jersey did pick first. They took Derek Coleman. Second, Seattle took Gary Payton. Third, Denver took the guard Chris Jackson, 6 feet tall. Orlando is next. We presume they'll take Dennis Scott. If they don't take Dennis Scott, kids, I think Charlotte will.
Oh, I don't think there's any question about it. I think that'd be a great choice for Charlotte.
What do you think, Lefty? If Orlando should do some blockbuster deal here and not take Scott, can the Hornets pass on him?
No, they got to take him.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody in the area knows him. He'll fill up the, of course, you have no trouble filling it up anyway, but, the Coliseum's fill up. But I think he'd be super for you.
Now, we're doing 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 people here tonight. There's a lot of college teams that like to do that for their biggest game of the year.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, right now, we're just kind of holding our time, and we'd like to bring you Orlando's pick if we can within our airtime. And, again, we think it's going to be Dennis Scott. We will break into programming, come back, give you the #1 pick of the Hornets.
I think it's interesting that the second and the third pick were point guards. So all you point guards out there better get to work, man. You can make a lot of money. Usually you think, hey, they're going to pick big guys, but there's 2 point guards that are going to be instant millionaires. That, so point guards get to work.
Okay, so Denver has chosen Orlando is next. Both the guys with me, Dave Odom from Wake Forest, Lefty Driesell from James Madison, they have both said Wayne Shinsis, Felton Spencer, 2 coaches that think the Hornets need to take a center. We won't know for another 5 or 10 minutes, but we'll come back in and let you know exactly live from the Coliseum. Thanks for being with us, and we'll be back.
Charlotte Hornets Draft Party, sponsored in part by Home Federal Savings and Precision Tune.